going to get into it. We're going to get into some like real life stuff. So as you know, life sometimes changes. Sometimes we go through transitions.
For sure.
For sure. So how can we use our practice, or how can our practice support us when like the proverbial poo hits the proverbial fan and makes a big sploochy splash everywhere? How can we take our practice, what we do on the mat, off the mat, and how can we use on the mat to help us in those difficult times?
Yeah. Oh, so good. Okay. Well, I first go to something that it may feel like a little bit dry and professorial.
Okay. I'm ready.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. But I go to practicing pausing between stimulus and response. And I think of, one of the other talks that we did about grounding, that aspect of just stopping, right? So when everything around you is transitioning and your mind included in your emotions, how do you incorporate that? And I'm going to skip to asana practice from you're on your mat to like, okay, I'm going to practice going into a pose, pausing before I deepen the pose, just pause, feel, choose. So that's why it's a little professorial, because it's like stimulus and response.
Pavlovian dogs salivating. Ta-da. It's good. It's good that we sound scientific and smart. No, it's good.
Yeah, because I could easily do the other, right? For sure.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's, for me, and you know this, but I'm right now, as we are recording this, I'm in the middle of this big change where I've uprooted my life of 13 years and taken this show on the road, basically. And I'm kind of upended a bit and traveling around and don't really have a home base and transitioning. And, it's been, and the practice is super important. And I actually made a list recently of like, okay, so how do we help ourselves? Self-care during transitions. And for me, coming to the mat is actually a place to remember that I'm okay. And it's a place where I go, oh, here's my hand. I put my hand down, I'm breathing. And in this moment, I have everything I need. So it reminds me that I don't have to be so attached. Like that, so much of the attachment is in our head. Like my attachment to my friends, my family, like all of, or material stuff or a location, it's really a mental construct. And yes, I want to reach out and talk to people, but I can also pick up the phone or call you. Like I can connect.
For sure.
It's not that hard. We just get scared. And so when I get on the mat, I remember like, oh no, I'm here. I'm okay. I'm safe, and I'm like reminded breath by breath to come back to the present moment and get out of this and more into the embodiment.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say. What you're saying exactly is like move into your body out of your head, which is propelling you into the future. Like what's going to happen.
Totally. Anxious mind, future or past. Oh, I'm so sad. I've lost everything. When in fact, it's like, if I were still in Vancouver in that geographic location, it's kind of like I'd probably be in my apartment. Things would just be familiar. It's not like I would be romping around with my friends all the time, or be more connected. Romping. So there's so much of it. It really just helps like change. One of my favorite quotes that I keep coming back to is chaos should be regarded as very good news by Pema Chodron. Or this is my other fave.
So
only
good.
Only to the extent that we expose ourselves again and again to annihilation can that which is indestructible be found.
Yes.
All right. So
yeah.
Like
is that another Pema?
It's Pema. When things fall
She's
apart.
rocking it. Yeah.
Right. So when we come to yoga practice, when our students come and practice, like when I look around the room at my yoga students, Mel, I know what some of them do for a living, maybe, or that some have a kid, but I don't really know anything about them. We're just there as humans. And it's kind of like when we treat the yoga practice as an opportunity to practice death in a nice way to attachments, death of our ego, we look around and we see human presence and we're not
Yes.
filled with labels about our jobs or our roles or emails or whatever. It's just like human to human. And when remember that, it brings us back to a truth that is deeper than the ups and downs, right? So
yeah, and that, you know, that leads me to like a constant kind of circle that's been in my thoughts, and partly from Alan Finger's teaching, partly from Joe Dispenza, who I really like, Dr. Joe Dispenza. But this aspect of, you know, when we're in the circumstances, we're stuck in the one thing. It's small, it can be tossed around. And then when we start to shift, we move into that place of no thing. It's beyond the circumstances. It's that essential that continues to live on, whether you call that soul or heart or collective consciousness or unified field, or right. And then through that, we feel connected to all things, you know, one thing, no thing, all thing. And in that, we feel safe and, you know, supported and nourished, because we are not separate. We're not alone. You know, that aspect of what's going to happen to me, it quiets. And I have everything I need.
Yeah.
And then from there, I can pause and then make an intentional action.
Yeah. And I think one of the things to also just to kind of offer to people out there, it's like, whether you're in transition right now or not, you will be, you might not be right now, or you might be, but it's to treat our practice as a sacred opportunity to cultivate that awareness. Like, so, cause we can just show up on our mat and phone it in, right? But it's kind of like, it's like, use your mat actually as a ground to remind yourself of this. Even, I mean, when we're in transition, we can't help it. We're just like, oh, here I am. And then we're on our mat. We're like, oh, thank goodness. But we can actually practice for those moments with by turning our practice into the ground through which we remember those things. Remember to pause, you know, get grounded, be intentional. Remember, I'm here, I'm safe, I'm whole, even when nothing's wrong. Like, so that we start to just kind of get that into our bones a little bit.
For sure.
Walk around with it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And the true truth is that we all are always in transition, right? Like every time, you know, every morning I wake up, I'm different. My skin, my mind, my, you know, everything's changing. The environment outside, like everything's changing. So to continue exactly as you said, to just drop in and be like, I'm present in that. So there's that flip side. If you think that you have all your insurance policies and you're just like, I'm set. Or the flip side of that again, that's like, oh my God, I'm so stuck. Nothing's changing. It's kind of like the same process, but just with a little different, like awakening of like, everything's changing. So keep breathing. It's a new breath, right? You know, it can't stay the same.
Yeah.
We like yoga. Yoga good.
Yoga good.